Alright guys, self-myofascial release for a recovery standpoint for legs. This is probably going to be the longest one. Some of the other ones I'm covering just lats, triceps, or chest. So this is calves, hamstrings, quads, inner thigh adductor groups, IT band. I've already covered the TFL and the hip flexor area in another video. Go check that one out if you're trying to address those two areas. I'm using a softball and a medicine ball on that one. So let's talk about the legs. First and foremost, I think it's really important that we start with the feet. And the feet are the base of your entire body. So I should be starting with the feet. So first thing I like to go with a lacrosse ball. It may be too hard though. If your feet really hurt, like I stand on my feet sometimes 15 hours a day. Sometimes I may need to start with something a little bit lighter. Okay? Now, for a recovery standpoint, you're going to be spending a lot more time than you normally would. I am trying to still scan, okay, identify areas. So right now, I'm going to identify a trigger point. I'm going to dig, I'm going to breathe, and I may mobilize. Okay. And I'm going to get back to scanning and go at it that way. Now, I may spend some significant amount of time doing that. As far as the feet go, I have my travel roller, probably one of my favorite rollers. And it happens to come with 3 different acupressure balls. Okay. Now, they pretty much resemble a lacrosse ball for the red, okay, as being as hard as it is. The yellow one is probably more like an original orange hockey ball, and then this one is closer to a tennis ball. So by all means, go buy other balls if you want to. It's kind of nice that this product has them all in one shot. So my favorite way to go is to start with a very soft ball. Okay, so I'm going to roll around again. I am scanning, okay, scanning, stretching the toes out is really good, the webbing. That may be an area that has a trigger point at the bottom of my foot, or bottom of my toes. So I've scanned, identified, now I'm digging, and now I can mobilize. Okay. So for sake of argument, I would then transition to a harder ball. And this is, you guys, you don't understand, like when somebody told me just to do this, I was like, why would I spend 3 times more time working through a light, a medium, and a hard ball? And I'll tell you, because you get 3 times the results. Okay, and then when I've done the same process of scanning, identifying, digging, mobilizing, and breathing, I would go to my hard ball. Now, best thing, take 3 of these balls and put them on the couch. Okay, keep them by the couch, keep them by your desk. Nobody's got to know that you're rolling away at your feet, getting a free massage. So, start with the softest ball that you can find. Okay, and then work up to a heavier one, work up to a heavier. Personally, what I like to do is when I'm blogging away, I just listen to music. So every song I change to the next density of the ball. Works good for me. So that's the feet. Starting from the feet and working up from there. Okay. Next, obviously, I would have my calves. Now, with the calves, I don't want to be standing, and I prefer the stick. I think it's just a better way to go. You can use a roller, and I am going to show that just to show an alternate version. But if I'm standing and I'm trying to roll away at my calves right now are working. Just holding me up. So, down on a knee. You can roll tibialis anterior, okay, which is a good idea, especially if you have shin splints, stuff like that. Again, I'm not reefing on this. This is for recovery. I need to be able to scan, okay, identify a trigger point, dig at it, breathing and relaxed, and then I'm going to mobilize that area. I'm going to go back here. Generally, I like to start in the Achilles, but I'm telling you right now, Achilles can usually be pretty damn tender. So be a little bit gentle in that Achilles as it approaches the soleus and into the gastrocnemius. Okay, so I'm rolling away here. I'm trying to scan. Okay, I found me a trigger point. I'm going to dig. I'm going to breathe, and I may mobilize. Okay. Roll around, see if I can find some more. Generally speaking, there's one for me out here. So I'm going to do that. Okay? So that's addressing the calves. Now, some other ways to go about it. You can take a roller. I got a bunch of different ones. Personally, I love the rumble roller for this because you need some sort of nubs. Okay? Ball is something that's going to put a little bit more finger or thumb type pressure into the calf. So I'm not going to take all of my body weight and put this on here. Go watch the guidelines video on how to tripod, okay, how much pressure you should be using. Also go check out the blog, the how-tos, the why-tos, and a bunch of product reviews. So both of those links are in the description below this video. Again, I like the rumble roller. I'm going to take a lot of pressure off in my hands and in my legs. This is sort of an ab workout. This is the only bad part about it. And I'm going to scan. Okay, I'm going to scan everywhere. I'm going to go on the side. Okay, identify a trigger point. I'm going to dig. Again, this is recovery. I'm going to spend a lot more time. I'm just speeding this up. I may spend 5-10 minutes on just my calves. I'm going to breathe, and then again, it's probably a good idea if I mobilize it. So, that doesn't have to be the only way. You could take one of the original foam rollers. Okay. By all means, you're just going to find that these are a little bit more blunt instrument-like, and for beginners, that may be exactly what you need. You may need to just sit here and put little bits of pressure. You may not be able to take actually lifting the body, or maybe that's hard on the wrists, which is where, in my personal opinion, the stick wins hands down. I don't have to do an ab workout with the stick, okay, to roll up my calves. So, the right tool for the right job. Let's move on to hamstrings. Generally speaking, foam rollers do not cover hamstrings very well. They're too blunt. This is just me speaking. I just don't like foam rollers for hamstrings. They just don't do anything for me, unless we're talking about the rumble roller. Okay, and the reason why, again, is those nubs. They feel pretty good. So, not that I can't, and I will show you how to do that. Understand that when it comes to the legs, I'm not only working one lineage of muscle. I do want to move around in different positions, okay? So I want to roll around in different positions of this hamstring. So right now I'm rolling the hamstring as it, what bumps into or is right beside the IT band. So I'm going to have a different pressure there. Again, I'm tripoding a lot of weight. I've got all the weight in my hands. Okay, I'm scanning, and again, I'm doing this a little bit faster. It goes, we do this a lot slower. Identifying, digging, and I may mobilize. Okay? So I'm going to go back and find different areas. You need to find different angles. Okay, maybe the lower hamstring with my toe straight up is where the trigger point is. Maybe the lower hamstring with my toe pointed out or my toe pointed in. Find the right area. I can get closer to the adductor group or that inner thigh. Okay, roll over a little bit. Again, I like the rumble roller because at least it's got these nubs to dig at. Now, if I take something like the grid, which has nubs as well, I just find this to be too blunt an instrument. It's too soft. Okay? I can take something like the travel roller, which is probably one of my personal favorites, and I can scan. Okay, I can dig at some of the areas that may be a lot more tender. Where this product probably has the advantage over other foam rollers as far as that goes is inside the travel roller I've got three different balls. Okay, so I have the light, the medium, and the firm density. So say once I've scanned that area and I located a trigger point at the bottom of my hamstring, I may put the ball on it and roll. And balls work extremely well. Okay? Don't neglect medicine balls and other types of balls for getting into trigger points. They just seem to work better. Again, I may change position. So, scan, identify, dig, breathe, stay relaxed, and sometimes that mobilization right after is very helpful. That's hamstrings. The other way to go about it, and this is probably better done in a warm-up standpoint, it is in the warm-up video as far as that goes, is with the stick, okay, tiger tail, whatever product you want to use, and just rolling. Again, it's not a blunt instrument. It's a pretty small little piece of equipment to be rolling on. So from here I find that I can just get at that trigger point and I can put pressure on it without having to put pressure on the ground. It's just way easier to do. So hamstrings, a little bit tricky. I don't love them on foam rollers. Quads, nobody loves the quads and the foam rollers. So the reason why is because it's super effective. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few tricks. You have to understand that the quadriceps stands for quad, which is 4, so there are 4 muscle groups there. With the quads, I have different quadrants as well. I may have the one outside, I have the one inside, I have rec fem at the top, and I've got a little bit of that, that inner thigh adductor group as I'm slipping in. So I need to cover a very vast area. This isn't one muscle that runs one direction. So I'm going to take my travel roller. Before I even put any weight on the travel roller, I have all my weight elsewhere. I'm going to be starting at my knee. I prefer to start at the knee. Now I'm going to, again, I'm in a lot of pressure right here. I'm not putting a lot on the roller. Now I'm going to roll all the way up the quad. Okay, you'll notice my toe is mostly turned out right now. That's one angle. The quad is very important that you get from multiple angles. So I've been rolling this whole entire time from my knee up with my toe pointed up. So that's a little bit more closer to the inner thigh or that adductor group. Then I'm going to go closer to the knee again and start with my toe straight down. Again, I need to keep somewhat relaxed. I don't want to flex in my quad. Okay, so I'm scanning. Now I've identified a trigger point at the bottom of rec fem. So I'm just going to dig and breathe. When I'm done with that, I really like for the quads, mobilizing them, which just means flexing and extending over that trigger point, being very careful, and then I will get back to my process of scanning. So I'm going to scan for more. It seems to be the only one there. So I will now turn my toe in, okay, starting on the more outside portion of my quad. I'm not quite into IT band yet, but I am on the outside portion of the quad. Okay. This is generally really tender for me, so I'm going to identify a trigger point, which I have, take a little bit more pressure off. You saw I was up here, this is more pressure, this is less pressure. I'm relaxed, I'm breathing as I can, and again I may mobilize. Okay. I'm going to work up. Now, I've already covered TFL in another video using balls. Don't bother using a roller for the TFL. I think it's just better to use balls. Again, the travel roller comes with balls, you can go that way, but I like a softball. IT band. Nobody loves training the IT band. For sake of argument, I'm going to shoulder rumble roller, which is probably the most aggressive way. That's a good way to put it. Now, you very much need to tripod, okay? I have weight nowhere near the roller right now. I'm going to very gently, especially on the rumble roller, put this down onto my IT band. Now, generally speaking, there's nothing at the hip joint. Don't be rolling over bone. 2 inches down from the hip joint, okay, so if this is my hip joint, about 2 inches down, okay, there's generally a trigger point for most people. If this is my knee, generally 2 inches above my knee is the other trigger point. Now I may have some that slides a little towards the quad, okay, so into here. I may have some that slides a little bit more into the meat of my hamstring, that's fine. But generally speaking, it's 2 inches above the knee and 2 inches below the hip. I like to walk up the entire area, okay, so that's the way that I prefer to scan. Slowly, I'm not zipping around all over the place. Okay, so this is helping me to scan. I've definitely identified a trigger point. It's nasty. So I'm going to dig at it now and breathe. Okay? I'm trying to stay as relaxed as I can. Now I may mobilize it by bending the quad. Again, but I'm trying to stay relaxed. I'm going to move up. Now I've definitely got another trigger point. Okay? Again, 2 inches above the knee. I'm trying to take some of that pressure off with my elbow. Okay, a person could just lay on the ground if it really was that bad. So I'm scanning, definitely identified, played with it a little bit to see which direction is best to approach it from, so it's definitely in the vertical for me. And from there, I'm going to dig and try to relax as much as possible, just breathing. I may just have to pause, I may just have to set my hip down, I may just have to get off of it if it's too much. Okay? So, that covers the IT band. Be very, very careful with the IT band. Now the other thing is if you don't address the IT band, and some people, because of how tender it is, they get on this and they just, ooh, okay, let's get working out. That is not going to help. The IT band, if it is tight or you have tension or you have too much wound up tissue in the IT band, okay, which is on the side of here, it can mess up function in the knee if this is too tight. Okay, it may not bend properly. If my, again, 2 inches below my hip joint, if my IT band, okay, going this way is all wound up, I may have hip hinge issues I may not be able to hinge properly, and therefore I'm getting things like tight hip flexors, and I may be getting problems with my lower back. So spend some time in your IT band, but again, areas, just like I said in the guidelines video, which everybody should have watched, if an area is something that is commonly and just always hurts and always is this trigger point and this tension, you might want to see somebody else and have them look at it, a massage therapist, a chiropractor who has active release technique, and have them address the reasons why. Maybe you have a glute imbalance, maybe you have weak glutes, maybe you have tight hip flexors. There can be a lot of reasons why stress is showing up in the IT band. Okay? So I've covered calves, I've covered hamstrings, I've covered the IT band, and I've covered quads. The last one is the inner thigh. So I'm going to show this with the glue roller. This is a little bit easier to roll around on because it's so long. Some of the rollers that are short can be somewhat tough to roll on. Now, generally speaking, the way that the inner thigh, the muscles go vertical this way. They don't run horizontal. So you want to, as much as possible, as much as your anatomy knowledge is there, roll the way that the muscles run. Okay, which is why it's important to hit muscles from different angles. So, being that I need to roll this way, I'm going to actually put the foam roller perpendicular to my inner thigh. So, before I even get onto the roller, I'm taking pressure and I'm taking some of that tripoding into effect. So, if I'm going to get into my inner thigh, I can't have my toe turned down. That's quad. I need to have the instep flat to the ground. Now, I'm going to scan and roll, okay, from my groin to my inner thigh. Now, I don't necessarily have to do it that way. I could just do little bits of rolling, scanning as I'm going. If I identify a trigger point, I can spend some time on it. Okay. Again, you're going to need to change positions often. Okay, try to stay as relaxed as you can. Don't flex your leg too much. And you can get a little into that hip flexor and groin. But again, with hip flexor and groin, I personally feel that it's best to be using the softball or the baseball. So that pretty much covers the legs. For recovery standpoint, I went through it extremely fast. Spent significant amount of time on your leg SMR. Check the links below for the guidelines and for the product reviews of what you've seen in the video.